All right, let's do it. Welcome into today's San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and on the docket for today's show, we are going to take a look at the San Francisco 49ers playoff path and all of the implications, all of the odds and percentages that go along with it. Of course, we have to lay the foundation by taking a look at the NFC playoff picture going into Sunday's matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. And just like last year's NFC Championship game, this game here on Sunday in Philadelphia, a battle between the two top seeds in the NFC. A win here for San Francisco goes a long way in their hopes of trying to secure home field advantage at Levi Stadium in the NFL playoffs. Philadelphia, though, still with the hearty advantage at 10-1. San Francisco 49ers at 8-3. Detroit Lions lost to the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving. They dropped to the 3 spot. Niners own the tiebreaker, so they were able to elevate into that 2 position. Atlanta Falcons unseated the New Orleans Saints to become leaders in the NFC South. That's why Atlanta is 4th with that 5-6 record. Then the wild card hunt, very, very interesting here outside of the Dallas Cowboys, who are going to make the playoffs. The Cowboys, sizable advantage over the Seattle Seahawks and Minnesota Vikings, but other teams lurking in the hunt, especially the Green Bay Packers at 5-6, Rams still alive at 5-6, New Orleans Saints still in the mix as well. Now, that's a look at the NFC playoff picture, and we'll talk about that Eagles game and the implications of it here in just a moment. First, though, you look at the NFC West Standings. This is why that Thanksgiving matchup against Seattle was such a big one. And Seattle, really difficult stretch here. They played the Rams 2 weeks ago, lost. They played the Niners last weekend, lost. They played the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. Very difficult game, of course. Then it's Niners-Seahawks for the second time in 3 weeks next week. So San Francisco winning that game on Thursday allowed them to get out to a 2-game lead in this division. The Rams a threat here to make it as an NFC wildcard team. They're not going to win this division. And then the Arizona Cardinals already looking ahead toward the NFL draft. Now let's decipher and dissect some of these odds, scenarios, percentages, as well as betting odds. The San Francisco 49ers right now currently have the best odds in the NFL to win the Super Bowl at plus 400. What that means is, simplified, you put down $1 and you win $4 if the Niners were to win the Super Bowl. San Francisco, pretty much a lock to make the playoffs. They would have to lose out and other insane things would have to happen. You don't often see odds like this, but San Francisco minus 20,000 to make the NFL playoffs. The odds to win the NFC West, minus 4,000. So if you were to bet $4,000, you only win $100. I'm a betting man. I love wagering on sports. I do not suggest that you lay down this bet because the value there is awful. What these odds are pretty much telling you, the Niners are going to win the NFC West for the second consecutive year. More so here. At plus 400, the Niners have a 20% chance of winning the Super Bowl. Again, best odds in the NFL as we go from the betting fraction odds to the percentages here. San Francisco also a 99.5% chance of clinching a playoff berth. It's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to have a playoff watch party here on the show. The remaining schedule for the Niners: Philadelphia, Seattle, Baltimore, Washington, Los Angeles Rams. Philly's on the road, Seattle at home, Arizona on the road, Baltimore at home, Washington on the road, Los Angeles Rams on the road. A lot of you are probably watching this show asking yourselves, Chase, what happens between the Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers? If the Niners beat the Eagles, they do own the tiebreaker. But they would need Philadelphia because the Eagles have a 10-1 record to lose one more game than the Niners in order to get that number 1 seed, to have home field advantage, to have the NFC playoffs run through Levi Stadium in Santa Clara. So that is the latest Niners playoff picture. We'll get to your questions because you have a lot of them coming up here in just a moment. First, if you're excited for some Niner playoff football, San Francisco. I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Today's show is presented by Prize Picks, $100 deposit match for you. Available at prizepicks.com/CLNS. What that means is you sign up using our link and our code CLNS, and let's say you put in $100, you get $200 to game with on the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. The picks that we like going into Sunday's slate: Jared Goff against the New Orleans Saints, more than 262.5 passing yards. Jalen Hurts, because the Eagles run that brotherly shove, push play a lot. He's been scoring a lot of rushing touchdowns, has 11 this year. Let's go more than a half rushing touchdown. And then Christian McCaffrey, an MVP caliber season for him, also a shoo-in to score a lot of touchdowns. Let's go more than a half rushing touchdown there as well. You can tell producer Trizzy, Trace, and I, but get those picks in. prizepicks.com/CLNS. Now let's get to your questions here on the show. Dave in the Desert, $5. What do you think that Brock's bag will be when the time comes? If he continues to play like this and the quarterback market continues to increase, you could be looking at Brock Purdy making between $40-50 million, maybe even more. And that's a tough pill to swallow because that's a lot of money for a quarterback. And if you're paying him that much money, you're not able to have the roster that you do right now because you simply can't afford all these high-level playmakers. Big Bo, can we still see John Feliciano at guard with Spencer Burford coming back? Yes, Big Bo. At the very least, we are going to see a right guard rotation of John Feliciano and Spencer Burford. It would not surprise me at all if Kyle Shanahan elects to just play John Feliciano for the entirety of that game. He's been pretty good filling in at left guard for Aaron Banks. Last week he played right guard after Banks came back, and I thought that he was solid. And even when he's mediocre, he's still better than Spencer Burford. Also, John Feliciano, he was the full-time starter at center last year for the New York Giants, has familiarity in playing against this Eagles defensive line. Dave in the Desert with another 2. Who you got tonight, Chase? So this video is probably coming out over this weekend. We're talking Seattle and Dallas. I'm going to be a genius, and I'm going to predict it before it happens. I think the Dallas Cowboys get the dub. That crazed Niner fan, do you think the tush push will be a factor? And if so, will we stop it? I think it'll be a factor. I think it's one of the most efficient plays in all of football. That might be an unpopular opinion. But when you think about the game of football, what makes football a beautiful sport? It's finding an edge and finding an advantage against the opponent. And if you want to counter that by saying everybody runs it, it's always successful, it's a cheating play, false. Because other teams have tried to run the play, and they're not as efficient as the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have a special offensive line. They have a quarterback who can squat 600 pounds. And they have this unbelievable ability to really push the trenches. And they get this unbelievable leverage that requires strength and talent. Getting timing off the snap count takes a lot of skill. And the timing of the play, I think, is very skillful. Now, if there's one team in the NFL that is built to stop it or to give the Eagles a tough time, it is the San Francisco 49ers. With that defensive line, but also when the Minnesota Vikings tried to run this play against the Niners earlier this year, Fred Warner came over the top and he brought Kirk Cousins down. Like, Fred Warner can do stuff like that. And the Niners have the dogs to stop this play, unlike many other teams across the NFL. When a guy like Nick Bosa says this shouldn't be illegal, they just run it really well. That's a guy who studies a lot of football, and I agree. It's going to be a factor. The Eagles will run it. It's basically a play that they run 2 yards and in. Philadelphia, they're very good at it. And San Francisco, as Kyle Shanahan did say, they got to be ready for it. Tom Daly, $5. How do we stop Jalen Hurts running all over us? This has me worried. Now, the Niners, for a long time here, under Robert Saleh, DeMeco Ryans, Steve Wilks, they have struggled against mobile quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts is a pretty mobile quarterback, and he injured his knee earlier this year, and his mobility has started to return back to form over the last couple of weeks. What's crazy about Jalen Hurts, he's been able to mount and play excellent football in the second half of all these comebacks. Because of that knee injury, though, he's been forced to win from the pocket, and he's carved teams up from the pocket. How do you stop Hurts? Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, quarterback spy, but you also have to contain and set the edge to not let him get outside, but also you have to have disciplined pass rushing lanes. Because if you don't, you run that wide 9, then Eagles are going to run that quarterback draw, because when you run that wide 9, defensive linemen are spread out, opens up a running lane. Henry, the average Niner fan, concerned about the Eagles' running defense against the Niners' running offense. So the Eagles' rushing defense is one of the best in the league. Niners' rushing offense is one of the best in the NFL. The game, I think, is going to be decided along the trenches. Eagles' defensive line against the Niners' offensive line, and then the Eagles' offensive line against the Niners' defensive line. In the NFC Championship game, on both sides of the line of scrimmage, Philadelphia really dominated that game in the trenches. They got gritty, they got grimy, and the Niners got pushed around. If that happens again, Philadelphia will win this football game. If the Niners are able to generate a pass rush and their offensive line plays their best game of the season, then they can win the football game. Black Mask. Who do we use to spy Jalen Hurts? I think the good option is Fred Warner. What's difficult about a quarterback spy, though, is that you are using one defender to just guard the quarterback, which then can open up another receiver or another tight end. And the Eagles, as we know, have a lot of really good weapons. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. We'll see if Dallas Goedert can play. Most likely not. But that's the issue with the quarterback spy. And if you use a guy like Fred Warner, how good is he against the run as a blitzer? He's the best pass coverage linebacker, off-ball linebacker in the NFL. So you're taking him away from that to spy Jalen Hurts. That's why, in addition to spying from time to time, you do have to have disciplined pass rush lanes, because if you don't, Hurts will slip through, get slippery, and slip out. And that's why you have to contain him. If you don't, he's going to get to the outside. Make sure you subscribe to us here on the San Francisco 49ers Report for daily and year-round coverage of the Niners that is informative, entertaining, and insightful. Just hit that subscribe button down below, and we appreciate you for your support.